Welcome to Against the Tide, the podcast where extraordinary social change makers share their stories and their wisdom. Against the Tide is a celebration of courageous women who create lasting impact by daring to forge their own path. We'll dive deep into powerful themes such as the complexity of identity and how it influences the choices we make, embracing change even when it feels uncomfortable, and how breaking free from labels can unlock your true potential. Join me, Jo Metcalf, to hear stories of incredible women who, by swimming against the tide, prove that extraordinary things can happen. Welcome to Against the Tide. I'm joined today by the formidable Saima Ashraf. Saima, my producer Louise shared your story of extraordinary courage. It's a real privilege to have you here with us today. You came to the UK from France, unable to speak English, as a single parent of 3 girls, and you've rebuilt your life from homelessness to becoming deputy leader of Barking and Dagenham Council. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As a Muslim woman, a migrant, a domestic violence survivor, and now a senior political leader, you have swum against many tides throughout your life. Shall we start at the beginning?
We shall indeed.
Excellent. So you arrived in England unable to speak English and found yourself rebuilding your life from scratch. What brought you here to the UK, and how did those early days feel?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. And I came to this country 2005. I followed my ex-husband. We arrived here, I remember, on a Friday, early mornings. It was quite, it wasn't even dawn yet. So Friday, and then Monday morning, he dropped us in a homeless unit hostel, me and my 3 daughters. At the time, they were 2 years old, 3 years old, and 5 years old. I couldn't speak a word of English. I remember him saying, like, yeah, stay there. And just, moved on. It was really difficult because I remember not, knowing anything about the system or even what, I was supposed to do, and finding myself completely, with that language barrier, not speaking English, not knowing what I should be doing. He was someone that was very controlling and abusive. I mean, in many ways, not just physical, financial, mental, etc. And it was, for me, a very difficult time. First, because language is one thing that, if you don't have that kind of communication level, you can't express yourself, and you can't even, ask for what you need, etc. So it has been a very difficult time. And I remember the hostel manager the caretaker, I would say, used to look after the hostel. It took him like quite a few months before he convinced me that I was supposed to put my children in school. It took me months to be able to really connect and feel a bit comfortable with like coming out of the hostel and dropping my children to school, and start to really do things for myself. Things were not easy because he wasn't completely out of the picture. He would just come time to time. Unfortunately, made me sign papers that I wouldn't know what I'm signing for. Very controlling, and you kind of like, as a woman, always try to patch up things. I wanted my children to look up to their dad the way I used to look up at my dad. So, coming out of these several months of wondering what to do, how to do it, I guess, the fact that I was going to drop my children to school and walking through the town centre was also a blessing, because I would see what's going on and how things are. And after dropping my children to school, I started to volunteer in a charity shop where I thought I would be, useful, and maybe I would feel a bit more comfortable and learn English this way, which I did. And that was also a way for me to be able to get, clothing for my children. I had no, income or source of income at all. And having a 2-year-old, a 3 years old, and a 5, and not having a buggy was extremely difficult. So what I did, I remember stopping to that charity shop, and I asked the lady if I could get this trolley, pushchair, and she said, "Oh," and I told her that I don't have money. So it was kind of like, okay, so you can do a few hours, and I'll give you that trolley. And so I started to work in that charity shop as just helper, and that's how I managed to get clothes for my children, for myself, small means that would be very meaningful, because I felt like I was doing something to get them. It took me time to really stand on my feet, I have to be honest. It was really difficult, especially when you don't have that level of confidence. The reason I wasn't putting my children in school is because I was so scared to go out, because I would have all the abuse. He would follow me on the street. He would threaten me. He would do so many things to really make me uncomfortable. And I know if it wasn't for the help of the police at the time to really, take action against this and help me, I don't think I would have managed to overcome this. And I'm kind of person that, I want to help. When someone help me, I help you back. So I remember the police being so much involved into, my life, that I felt like, okay, I have to give back. So I started to volunteer in the Met Police after a year of working in the charity shop. And so I helped them in the Borough Intelligence Unit. I was just entering those stop and search slip or doing a bit of admin. But that actually for me was like a turning point, because I learned about the rules, the law, the people, the country, and the fantastic place of Barking and Dagenham. I felt like this place was a place where I finally found safety and a safe place for me to be, to live, and also to raise my children. And I worked with them 2.5 years, I would say. And that was for me really, as I said, a turning point. Until my children were full-time school, and I could give more time, and eventually became a bit more aware and confident. And one day I met the MP outside my school. She was campaigning against the BNP. We had the British National Front in Barking and Dagenham. And we had quite a few councillors who were already elected. They were putting more candidates everywhere. Their leader was standing as well in that as a member of parliament. And I met the MP who was campaigning, but I helped her to. I asked her help actually, if she could help me to do a reference letter for myself, as I wanted to apply for a divorce and have my children just for me. And she did help me, which I was grateful. So again, I asked her, how can I help you back? And that's the number one question you don't ask a politician. I've learned.
Well, we'll dig into some of that for sure. But thank you so much for sharing some of your difficult background, but how you've turned that into something really positive. We'll explore some more, but thank you. So you spoke in there around surviving domestic violence and being rejected by your own community after your divorce. How did that experience shape you?
I guess it was very difficult. And sometimes, we feel like we get over things quickly when actually we don't, because it kind of stay somewhere in your subconscious, and sometimes reflect in your behavior or the way you feel or receive things. I remember losing everyone that I knew of at the time. The very little social circle I had was because of him. So people did not want to be associated with me because I was a divorced woman. And so I kind of carried that stigma. And also I have to say, growing up, I remember, my parents, because we were raised and brought up in France, but my mom and dad, tried their best to give us a bit of the culture in Pakistan as well, of Pakistan. And So the reputational aspect of things was something my mom always used to highlight. Don't do this, people will say this about your dad, or what will happen, people will talk about your dad. So it was always about the reputational. And so for me, it was not that I was giving them an excuse to behave like this with me, but it was kind of like, okay, this happened, it was expected when it shouldn't be expected. But so I kind of like, at the time I found it very difficult that people would actually, as soon as you would mention, oh, I'm divorced, I would see people's face changing, or even behavior changing completely. So it took me time to kind of like digest that kind of feeling, but very quickly, I would say, I started to establish my own social network. It was becoming bigger to actually tell me, no, you establish your own connections. It's okay. I'm a good person. It's just that people don't know me. So it's about knowing who I am. So who I used to be, what are the good things that I should carry on being, or even like things that had disappeared in me because of all the abuse over the years. And so I was trying to redefine and also reconnect with who I was and also who I want to be. So having my own social network, making friends, friends that I don't think I would have made in the past, before even I knew. I was like talking to, in France, because we've got also such a diversity from Northern Africans and African countries that were colonized by the French, so they're all French speaking. And I met those same communities here in Barking, which, was also, you always, feel so much warmth when you have people from your own community. And when I say community, it can be any community, but we were the French speaking community. And so I had that kind of like connection that I started to really cherish. But also anybody else that, would be nice to me and would give me the respect that I wanted. And that was, anybody on the street, really. And people are genuinely nice in Barking and Dagenham, and that's what I felt. So, yeah, I was friends with so many people and started to, build on this.
And how did that support build your confidence?
I think my confidence grew like on everyday basis. I still feel like on many level I would not be confident, I guess, like everybody else, but it made me confident because for me now, it's Barking and Dagenham, it's my home, it's my place, it's the place I live and I contribute, but also where I've raised my children, and I want my children to give back to the people of Barking and Dagenham. So it's ownership, it's pride, it's connection. Yeah, it's
fantastic.
home.
So you've said that faith carried you through. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so my parents raised us with that kind of, faith and belief, and tried their best to give us that kind of education, even though in France laicity is a big deal. So we never really had the religious diversity. I know my dad, because there wasn't any mosque at the time in France that was close to us. My dad we were living in Paris, so we were privileged enough to be able to see so many beautiful buildings. So, from Notre Dame to Sacré-Cœur, all these beautiful places of worship. My dad used to regularly take us there. Me and my sisters, and for us it was a place of worship like any other place of worship, but that was the only ones that we would knew. I remember not knowing much, because we never learned in school either, about Sikhism, for example, or Hinduism. Hinduism we would know a bit because we would watch Indian movies growing up. But you would know about, I don't know, Judaism, or even about, different religious communities. And so coming here and having that kind of curiosity as well about other faiths, because here it's, you know, there's a level of equality and diversity that is equal to none. I really appreciate that. I think it's something we should all appreciate, especially for people coming from, you know, making UK their homes from different countries. We shouldn't take things for granted as well. There's a level of equality and diversity which is much better than any other European countries, if not, you know, elsewhere. And we should really value it. It's not perfect, but we should value it and not taking for granted. But having faith for me was, you know, whatever happened is for the best. So that kind of optimism, but also if everything that happens to us, even if it's hard, it's because there is a good thing behind it. So we manifest that kind of like positivity. And it's almost for me like an obligation, a part of my, well, the way I am, really. So it's part of who I am and the way I have been raised, and that's how I've raised also my children. So you must look at the positivity in anything. I know sometimes, you know, difficulties and, you know, situations are such that you don't understand really what's the positivity in it. But on a long term, you kind of like understand there was maybe a lesson, you've learned something. You definitely learned something. You might have a relationship that was not good, or a friendship that didn't work, but you've definitely learned something. And you also had good moments, if it's not, you know, if it was minimum, but it was like good moments too. So yeah, I think that's something that really, you know, resonate with me.
Yeah, fantastic. So you describe yourself proudly as British, French, Pakistani and Muslim. That's a beautiful, complex identity. Has it always felt empowering, or did it take time to own those labels?
Yeah, so I would say that didn't all come at the same time, by the way.
Yeah.
I was born in Pakistan, but my parents moved when I was 3 months old to Paris. So I grew up as a French, you know, national and, as a resident, proud resident. With the slight realization and the background, my mom telling we are Pakistanis, you know, and one day we will go back. Your dad say one day we will go back. So we always had that in our mind that one day we will go back, wondering where, because we had never been to Pakistan. Being Muslim is our identity, yes, because it's our faith. That's part of our way of life. So yeah, it's our identity. So that was it. But when I came here, and the reason I'm saying it's a good question, because it's this year, it's been actually last week, it was exactly 10 years that I became British.
Wow.
So I'm celebrating my decade as a British woman.
Brilliant.
I feel where you live, you try your best to integrate. And I'm so pleased about myself, really, without being arrogant, that I've managed to still learn, you know, English and be part of the community, but also the system, and, you know, being able to make changes to, you know, policies and be part of everything. So for me, it's like that pride of being in that, you know, position to be able to make that change. Along with all those tags. So being a Muslim woman, a French woman, a Pakistani woman, a British woman, it's all about respect. Owning who you are, but respecting not only the place where you are, but also the culture and the society you are living in.
Brilliant. So when did you first start to feel the sense of purpose and ambition in your own life?
I guess when I was volunteering with the Met Police, having a better understanding of where you are with the community you are in, and understanding the needs around you, but also what is your own need. That kind of like really helped me to start to say, like, I want to do more. I want to be part of the system. I'm not saying that I wanted to be a police officer, but it was like for me a way of learning. There was a lot of engagement into this. I remember, like, you know, talking to, you know, senior police officers and having debates and discussing on subjects, which was really nice, because sometimes, I would be very shy and think like, oh, they're very educated or expert into that field. And they would really want to hear from me. And I felt like that gave me that confidence as well. But also, when I joined politics soon after, that was also for me another step into that. So I guess it started with the Met, but it really started after, like, it was like more certain after I joined the Labour Party.
And how would you describe your purpose now?
My purpose now is definitely more, I would not say political, but community oriented and also humanitarian, more like.
Yeah, brilliant. You entered politics at a time when the BNP had a strong presence locally, and you became the first Muslim woman elected in Barking and Dagenham. What was that experience like?
Quite intimidating at first. I remember when I started and entering the chamber of the council, and very much male, white, elderly. And it was intimidating at the same time, overwhelming, and you don't know what to do really. I remember prior to be elected, I remember doing a lot of door knocking and listening sessions such as coffee afternoons and street meetings. And so for me, the listening aspect was really important in order to be a good, politician or community activist. You need to listen to people and try to understand where, ideas are coming from, where communities, tensions or challenges are coming from. But once I became elected, I wasn't really aware that I was meant to scrutinize or make policy, etc. Things that I didn't know clearly. Like for me, it was like I'm gonna do door knocking every day. So the first year was for me a learning curve, really, where I kind of like stayed quiet most of the time, trying to listen more of like and understand what I was meant to do. Second year, I was definitely more confident. Third year, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So my first term as a counsellor was very much learning, but also try to shape a better council in that sense. So I remember like in the beginning when I would start or want to speak, I would have other counsellors telling me, shh, it's all right, sweet pea. That I had it a few times. And me, again, my English wasn't the best then. And I used to think like sweet pea is the vegetable, the pea. So I used to think they call me just a vegetable. I never realized it was a flower. But I was like, why is he calling me a vegetable all the time? So it took me time to really because the British sense of humor or the way things are being said is different. And for me, it was always like, okay, I need to really try to understand. But when you have also culturally, we were, raised like when elders are talking, you don't interfere, or if they say something, you don't respond back. All that was clashing, I have to say, because here I was in a chamber where it's a lot of elderly men that, are telling me first shush, shush, and then they're like not letting me speak, or not, my voice is not going to be heard. But it took me time to kind of like put my foot down and start to say, no, I have something to say, actually. I'm not going to let someone else speak for me or for my community. And so, it took me, I would say, like a term before I felt grounded.
And what gave you the confidence to start speaking up?
Would you believe that I was elected in 2010 for the first time? Up to 2014, when I got elected second term and I became deputy leader, is when I stopped saying the phrase, every time I would have a conversation with anybody is when I stop saying the phrase, I'm sorry, my English is not good. And everybody would look at me saying, like, no, your English is okay. Your English is okay. But I would not. It's only when I became deputy leader in 2014, in my second term, I did a course which was about leadership. And they made us do like a role play. And I started they asked me to introduce myself, and I started with, I'm sorry, my English is not good. And then I introduced myself, and I told about myself, and I told about the challenges that my borough was going through, because it was a national event. And everybody looked at me and said, which language do you speak? And I said, oh, I speak fluently French, Urdu, Punjabi, and I think I speak English, but not clearly, like I'm not a good English speaker. And I remember a lot of them saying to me, never apologize about not speaking English, because you speak all those languages and your English is good. You need to stop saying this. And I think it's the first time somebody really convinced me to stop saying this. And it's 2014 when I stopped saying that, I don't speak English. I do, as a joke, sometimes say, like, I speak those many languages, but to my children, I think I speak Chinese, because they never listen to me.
And how did that change things when you recognised that?
I guess it made things more easier for me. When you are not confident is one thing. Then when you're not confident about your language is another thing. When you're not confident about, oh, I'm in a position of power, such as an elected member, and now I became a deputy leader, people will judge me because of my English is not good. That really, for me, was like pulling me back all the time. Every time it would pull me back. But as soon as I kind of like got over this, I think everything settled. I felt so much better in myself. I kind of like started to tell myself, okay, I'm not being judged for my English, etc. I'm being judged for what I will deliver. So my focus should be on the delivery, on the listening, on the, whatever I can do to help people. And I think that changed my perception.
Yeah, brilliant. And do you think things have changed in politics for women?
Yes, things, I guess, will always kind of like change in politics. I'm sure it's better than before, because I hear that it's better than before from senior women councillors. From my point of view, since I joined in 2010, yes, it is better than before. And is it like on a national level, or, I mean, it's good where I am in Barking and Dagenham, but I feel like there is still so much to do. We do get so many challenges as women, and it can be around Islamophobia or racism, misogynism, or, I remember in 2014 when I was elected and I was cabinet member for housing, and I remember going to a meeting in City where a lot of like lead members of housing would sit with people from, developers and planners, etc. And it was predominantly male. And I remember going to my first meeting, they all looked at me thinking, like, and one said, are you lost? And I remember like saying, no, is this meeting about housing? Yes, well, okay, I'm at the right place. Oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Barking and Dagenham. Wow, that place has changed. That's the comment I had.
Interesting.
So very interesting, because I said, like, yes, I'm a legacy of the BNP.
Yeah. And what would you say to women in those spaces?
Persevere, be resilient. I guess I'm someone that was so excited to be there that I didn't care what they were thinking. Now that I step back and I think about the things I had to hear or go through, now it does make me a bit annoyed, thinking, why was it acceptable that, they could say these kind of things? It's not about being reactive, but actually to flip things the other way. So I remember in 2017 when I started the Borough Manifesto, which was a non-political manifesto for the council. I wanted to connect and talk to as many people as possible. And so I went to parents, schools, stations, underground stations, markets, everywhere I could. And there was some community groups that would see me coming and they would give me all the, when they look at you and they're going to have me today. And I remember one group, specific group, it was in Dagenham, and they all saw me coming, and they looked at me with so much anger that I felt, oh my God, they're going to literally eat me alive today. That's going to be really bad. But I still went thinking I need to listen to them. Whatever they want to say, even if they want to have a go at me, they will have a go at me. It's okay, because they're not having a go at me as a person. They don't know me. I'm a nice person, It's just that the frustrations they've got. And I went with that piece, like in my mind, that's how I went. Would you believe that after 2 hours of a lot of people were angry, especially when I asked, what do you like, what do you dislike? And they can give it to you, which I welcomed, because I felt like that was really powerful. That, you can hear, that you give people that platform to offload, but also that you can turn it into something so good. And in the end, we all, they thanked me to listen to them. Some were apologizing because they were angry. Some also were in tears. And I felt like it's really good that people can offload this way. Thanking me at the end, we were having hugs and all. And I felt like that was the best one I had so far. I always talk about them. And I feel like, we need to let people actually offload. We shouldn't just say, no, we're not going to talk about something. Let's talk about it and actually see what can be done,
Yeah, listening is so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So powerful. So you went on to become Deputy Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Housing, drawing on your own experience of homelessness. Why was that role really important to you?
It was important to me because I've been through the system. So being homeless, I had a council property, going through the repairs, going through, the lack of services or the quality of services. For me was, I know from A to B or A to Z, everything to go through it. And so I knew what kind of level of services you want to see. You know exactly what is working and what is not working, where we need to tighten the rules or to be relaxed, or, what kind of support we need to give families. I lived in a hostel for a whole year, before I had a council property. In that whole year, I went, not only that I was going through the abuse with my husband, but I had so much abuse within the hostel. I felt so unsafe at the time because there was a lot of drug dealing issues. We had, people that were drunk trying to force my door all the time. So at night, I would feel so unsafe. The number of times the police had to intervene. And living a whole year like this, I was always thinking, oh my God, am I are my children safe? Because I would never let them even play in the hostel, let alone, sending them school. So it took me time really to adjust on all this. And as soon as I became cabinet member, I remember the first thing was to change that hostel and start to say, okay, there should be a hostel, because we had several hostels. Turn one for families and single moms. And the one I used to be was more qualified, adequate to have it for single people. So started to make changes, but make them also give a bit of refurbishment, making it look more decent, having more for children in those places. I remember my children had a Christmas gift, for example, from that hostel, and that was the best day ever that they had. because they had a gift, they had a celebration, etc. We need to do all these kind of things where we could and we should, because my children till this day remember that. It's been 20 years, they're not all grown up, but they remember that gift. And that was the first gift they had here. And so that's very important that, we have these kind of things.
Yeah. It's really powerful when you get lived experience in positions of power to then influence change, isn't it? Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, when I remember becoming the cabinet member for housing, the first thing I did is go back to that hostel, and the manager literally ended up in tears when he saw me coming, because he remembered me as the abused woman who didn't speak English. And just to thank me all the time, I was cooking him sometimes, a dish or something to thank him. But being in the position where I found myself was, not only I'm grateful for the people because they elected me, but I'm also grateful to the people that I worked around, because it's not me doing things. We've got officers doing, they're the experts. But if it wasn't a collaborative approach, that could make things as hard for me as easy for me. And I think I was lucky in that sense.
Yeah, amazing. Why did you create the cabinet role for community leadership and engagement?
Well, when I was in housing, it was very evident that, first, we didn't have the same funding to deliver the same services. And as Labour Party activist members, councillors, we were always door knocking, and listening was something that we were good at. So we had all the data, we had a lot of information from the community. Being the cabinet member for housing, I remember just calling on the tenant and resident associations, so their chairs, for example, and it was again very much elderly and male and pale. And I remember the first meeting I had was almost like racial abuse, I would say, in many levels. And so I was thinking, no, I can't have this kind of meeting all the time. We need to have proper engagement. So we need to start to bring people together. That was definitely something that I wanted to do. Then when we had, lack of funding, we started to redesign the services. We decided that, instead of having a typical housing portfolio, we need to change it and make it more, collaborative with other groups too. So we changed completely the way we were doing things. And we created this portfolio, which was community leadership and engagement. So the whole voluntary social sector, the faith sector, all the engagement and participation aspect of the council in all levels, and communication as well, would come under one portfolio. And it's when I started to build on this. So I've been working on it since 2016. So delivering a borough manifesto, doing all the engagement, making sure the social voluntary sector is on point, like we connected. And we did it really well, to be honest, because in when 1 week before the Prime Minister announced COVID-19 lockdown, the first lockdown, we invited all the voluntary sector and the faith sector together in the town hall. And we had everything sorted and ready to deliver to our resident. We knew who was going to do what. And it was on one email, one phone call really away, that everybody knew what they was supposed to do. That doesn't happen just like this. You build on those relationships. Those same partners, because they're partners, those same partners ran the COVID-19 vaccination center, all voluntary based. The faith sector really stepped up in Barking and Dagenham, completely took over, befriending people, doing prescription, food delivery, etc. They were on it, and they're still, running some of those services. And all this is because we build on it, and it's a constant work. So having that kind of participation is bringing people together to do activities, to do things they want to do, but within, a fair short distance of their home or workplace, so they can come together and do things. The idea is that it's not completely perfect, but it's definitely better than before.
Sounds like you take a really compassionate approach to your leadership. What does compassionate or what does leadership mean to you?
Well, leadership to me is like showing a good example, making sure that everyone is heard, but also respecting that there is different opinions, respecting that people have different views, and we might not agree on everything, but it's about finding common grounds and a platform where people are allowed to express and talk and share. So yeah, leadership for me is a lot about allowing people to be who they are, but at the same time collaborate and do things together.
Yeah, brilliant. You come across today like a super confident woman achieving extraordinary things, but you've been honest about lacking confidence at times still. What's helped you in your leadership and continuing to build that confidence?
Yeah, well, I guess the fact that we allowed to have trainings or do courses. So first, when you equip yourself with the right tools, so feeling the confidence, I guess it came slowly and gradually. Moving on, letting things go, such as not holding yourself on, oh, I can't speak English, or oh, I'm not equipped with this. For years, I was always telling myself I'm not good enough, beside achieving a lot of issues like the imposter syndrome, but that also you can work on because who else is going to tell me what I have achieved if it's not me? And no one else knows better than me. So I think it's like that voice needs to be, that voice has always been inside me, and I guess like I don't know, I define it as my faith, but I define it as like a little me inside me. But I need to tell myself that I've achieved a lot, and I've achieved good things, and I should learn from my mistakes, and not everything is perfect, and it's not meant to be. It's whatever we can do with what we have and how we can move forward, but bringing as many people as we can together, because you will always have people that are still like you can't do the perfect 100%. Not everybody is going to be happy, but as much as possible.
What an incredible journey and story. What would you say to your younger self?
You'll be fine. I think that's what comes to my mind, is that yes, it's giving me that reassurance to work hard, and you'll be fine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what gives you hope for the future?
When I look at young people nowadays, it gives me hope because I see that there is a lot of knowledge that is going on, but young people nowadays are also very open. So I feel like there is so much that they will achieve because of education, because of the progress that you've seen in many levels. And being a mom myself, like when I look at my daughters now, I'm always impressed and amazed, I have to say. So I'm like, it gives me that hope. My eldest, who is a district nurse, and I look at her like, I'm like, wow, she's doing so much. My second one, who is an event manager, I look at the events she's put on and I'm like, oh, wow, it's impressive. And my youngest, who's just finished her master in bioinformatics, I'm like, I've seen the app she created last time, and I was like, oh wow, so it's like it gives me hope to think that, there is hope, because they will achieve so many things. And it's about, it's all about this. I think the young people are our future. So yeah, I better have hope.
It sounds like you've done an incredible job with your daughters, and Dagenham are so lucky to have you. And I think if we could replicate you all over, the world would be a much better place for sure. So thank you so much for sharing today. That's been a lovely conversation.
Thank you so much.
Very inspiring, and I hope our listeners enjoy that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no.
Thanks for listening to Against the Tide, brought to you by Joe Metcalf and Louise Kavanagh. We're grateful to the team at Sticks and Glass in Leeds and Bison Studios in London, our inspiring guests and wonderful listeners. Subscribe to Against the Tide wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode.